everyone, it's Doug Green, and I'm the publisher of Technology Reseller News. And I'm very pleased to have with me again Christian Stredicke of Vodia. Christian, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me again.
So we're continuing our podcast series with Vodia. And today we are talking about, we're going to have two words that, interestingly enough, are seldom used in the same sentence together. And that is AI and PBX. And Christian, you're going to give us a little bit more insight into that. But first of all, what is Vodia?
Yeah, Vodia is a manufacturer of software for telephone systems.
Oh. And you guys have long experience in being in the PBX market, phone system market, the software market. You have long experience understanding the functionality, the things, even if a customer or an end user doesn't even know they have a PBX, that there's a certain set of expectations that go with the use of a PBX.
Right. So, I mean, we're doing this now for more than 20 years. Actually, there might be an anniversary coming up.
Yeah.
So it's, of course, a lot of stuff has changed. If you told me 20 years ago, all the changes keep coming I wouldn't believe it, but it's true. So many changes coming. So I can really say it wasn't boring at all. And actually, I don't think it's going to be boring anytime soon anyway.
Always
there's
exciting.
a lot of stuff in this thing called the PBX. If you peel a little bit behind it, and many things working underneath.
Well, let's peel away at that onion. Let's talk about it. As we were talking about in the run-up to our podcast today, there has been, since Teams sort of emerged as a very dominant kind of platform, a lot of discussion about how Teams, well, it's a good platform. It doesn't have the functionality of a PBX. So when we're thinking about AI and PBX, do we start there, that AI doesn't necessarily give you PBX functionality? Is that what we're talking about?
I think, first of all, the AI and also the real-time part of the AI wasn't really written for PBXs. I think they definitely have a different focus right now, which is totally fine. But for us, of course, the question is, how can we use that technology in the context of the PBX?
Okay.
Right. So a few months ago, we started talking to the APIs, and we also said, okay, we're our first customer, so we put this on our own live PBX and have callers go through the AI integration and kind of see what happens, right? And I think we found a few things that I might be sharing with you here today. Might be interesting for others as well, on how to really use that stuff in a telephone system.
Well, let me start with a very simple question. With Vodia and with what you do, are you in fact using AI?
Yeah, of course, we try to use it everywhere, not just in the PBX itself. We try to use it for coding,
Okay.
Answering all everyday's question, for support. So we're definitely experimenting where we can. And I think it's very important to do that today, right? So we want to understand it and be able to use it very productively. I think that's actually very important for every company to understand it properly. I think it has huge potential and huge future. This is not just some scam or something. It's real. But I think the PBX topic is, of course, important because it's not just for us, it's essentially for all our customers, all our partners. That's why we experimented a little bit more in that field and try to understand how to use. Okay, we did only OpenAI so far, but probably all the other APIs are going to be similar.
So what problem is it solving? In other words, I hear you're using AI. Why are you using AI? What was the gap that it's filling?
So, I mean, in the context of the PBX, there essentially are two problems. One is you want to transfer calls. That is what you cannot do if you're talking directly to a web browser to an AI robot. And that is essentially the thing about the PBX, the transfer calls, right? Hopefully to the right party. And the other context is that you just empower the user to use the PBX better. So instead of using DTMF, deep press 1 for listening to the voicemail, all these things, that can also lead into the AI robot. So essentially talking to the PBX itself and it will then help you to to turn do not disturb on, off, all these kind of things that may be a little bit hard to use through some voice menus. So these two things are really specific for PBXs, and that's not what you would do with like a generic OpenAI real-time usage.
Christian, what you just said, I think is we should focus on for just a second. I have a feeling we've all had the experience of calling somewhere from our car. Our hands are on the wheel. We can't push 6. So are you saying a very significant thing here that many businesses might be overlooking is we're basically locking out customers that are trying to talk to us from their car, for example?
Actually, we thought about that. So, for example, you can have a little keyword and saying, "Hey, Vodia," right? So you always essentially the PBX is always listening in, and if that keyword appears, then you're essentially getting to some kind of assistant to the degree that we would say, "Hey, why not record just everything you talk," right? So collecting all that data and have everything transcribed and just collecting a lot of information. And it might be happening in the future. Right now, I think it's still a little bit futuristic, and it might be today actually a little bit creepy, right? Because if all the time every phone call, sent to an AI robot, I don't know, I would be still a bit careful with that. Might be changing in the future as people get more used to it. But that wasn't our primary focus right now. I think right now I would prefer to explicitly say, okay, I want to talk to that robot and not to anybody else, right?
And this is significant, so right? Yeah.
Yeah, because I think it's not so much a technology problem, but it's more like a user acceptance problems. I mean, if let's say we're in this conversation here right now, and suddenly my AI robot jumps in and says, "Hey, Christian, that's not true," right? I don't know, it would be very awkward. And I think that is today, I don't know, I wouldn't want it. It would be, to me, looking creepy to the degree that would be maybe legally difficult, right? Becoming this whole topic of call recording, constant recording of calls, you have to announce it, people have to be aware about it. And I don't know, I don't see what you're really getting out of that. So I think this is essentially more for playing around, but not really for anything really productive at this point. Which I think is one of the key questions, of course, for me today is what is like fooling around and what is actually really producing something, right? That is, I think, one of the questions, because we are running businesses. So we need to create value. We need to work on something. And I think we are at the moment at a point in time where we say certain things can be automated very well. For example, you can say, "Hey, I want to talk to sales." Boom, you get transferred to sales. Okay, got it. Nobody has a problem with that. But if I want to buy some expensive wedding dress, I do not want to talk to a robot, right? I want to talk to a human that knows what a wedding dress is and who knows what's in inventory and everything, right? Because it cost me a lot of money. And I would actually get mad if somebody would just send me to a voicemail or to an AI robot. And of course, the question is where do we draw the line in the middle, right? So there's this relatively clear example where, let's say, you want to transfer to sales. I think that is when nobody has a problem today. And also, like, you're talking to a mailbox, also okay. But then let's say you want to change your appointment at the dentist. I think that is the case where people would be okay if it works well, right? So, and we've seen in the past, people tried voice XML, but voice XML was not a huge success. It was a lot of frustration with callers, where they essentially said, please get me a human. I'm not getting anywhere here, right? Essentially, then they had to transfer the call to a human again. And it was, at the end of the day, not a good customer experience. And I think that is what we have to find out in the next months and years, where we have a good customer experience and where not.
So let's talk about some use cases possibly. We were talking before we began about nursing homes and independent living.
Yeah, so okay, AI nursing homes with a PBX. I would still say, okay, let's say, okay, the classical case is somebody calls into the nursing home and want to get transferred to the right room, right? So that's something
Right.
that a robot can do easily. So you don't have to even know the room number and stuff like that. If you know the name, then it can transfer the call. And that already helps the staff. Everybody knows the staff in nursing homes is totally overworked already, and they're happy if such a task can be deferred to a robot. So that one would make sense. On the other hand, like stuff like really talking to the people living there, I don't think that's something that the PBX has to do. So I don't expect that people in the room would pick up the handset and saying, "Hey, can you tell me a good night story?" I don't see that people would do that with their phone in a room.
So, in other words, I think one of the takeaways you're saying here is market by market, there's going to be a specific kind of application for the AI.
Yes. I think
Okay.
that is, for me, that's crystal clear. So there's going to be a lot of detail work to do in the industry, and maybe even for every single client, right? So there is a difference if you have a nursing home or if you have an agency or you're having a prison, right? This is entirely different. And I think people, the business themselves don't have the know-how to really use the AI. And I think there's a great opportunity for partners to help those companies finding what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. Maybe even have a couple of scripts already ready from similar customers, right? So they save a lot of time writing that stuff, and essentially building up a consultancy business. I say, like in the 90s, when everybody needed to have a web page, right? There were companies helping making web page, and it was a great success. And I think that is what is coming now, is saying companies see the need for using AI, but don't really know how to do that. And so people and company who have experience with that, I think they can really help those companies, AI enabling those companies in generally, but also specifically for the telephone system. And essentially, so now the Vodia hat on, that's where we're trying to help. So we try to provide a tool that can be used for adopting AI in the day-to-day business of companies.
Christian, as we wrap up our podcast today, it's intriguing when we look at AI and we look at the PBX. I think you might be talking about bringing us full circle in the world of telephony to being able to, as you did maybe 100 years ago, pick up the phone, so to speak, and just say what you want.
Yes, so we might be able to get rid of this thing called DTMF, right? The keypad. You might not need it anymore. You just say what you want, right? You want to go to your mailbox and saying, "Hey, play my voicemail messages," right? And then you can say next, previous, whatever, faster, slower. So why not doing that for voice? I think that is definitely possible today. And other things as well. Whatever you want to do with your phone system, that's what I mean, like turn on do not disturb, on, off, all these things where you like have to go through menus and press this button and that button. I think that is possible today with voice. And I think people would be delighted to do that, right? Would be
Yeah, I
happy.
mean, after all, when you call a bank or you call a company or you whatever you already know what you want. It's not like you have no idea why you called. You want to call Chris. You want to ask Christian a question. You want to ask your bank, what is my balance? You want to maybe transfer money, or you want to tell the insurance company to pay something or something, right? It's a request of some kind.
Right. I mean, okay, finding the right person, that's one thing. And then the other topic is, of course, okay, getting rid of DTF there as well.
Right.
I don't know how many people really want to know what the bank, how much is in the bank right now.
But let's go back to the nursing home, right? In other words, if
Yeah.
you're an adult child of a person in a independent living, you may want to just, hey, connect me with my father, or connect me with Rachel, who's my mom's nurse, or
You could even
connect me
say
with the
connect me
director.
to my father, because if your caller ID shows up, they should in the ideal world have a CRM system saying, "Hey, this is
Right.
so and so," right? and father is room number so and so. So it should be able to make that connection.
Right.
But I
And
don't know if
now
that's
you
possible
have,
today, but in the near future, absolutely, right?
right. I mean, we're envisioning a seamless world where I'm able to contact the resident that I want to talk to, or I can contact the specific staff person that I wanted to talk
Yes.
to, or I can do the activity. Please give me accounting. I want to pay a bill, or I want to ask a
Right.
question, and I can do this while I'm driving my car.
Yes.
Yeah,
That should
or
be.
whatever I'm doing.
Yeah. So I think this is something where people would just say, yeah, this is 100% winner. There's no reason
Right.
not to do it, right? And by the
And
way, you can still do DTMF. So if you still want to use DTMF, yeah, do it. If you know your party's extension number, you can still enter it. Nobody stops
yeah, I
you.
mean, presumably
But
there might be. Actually, I'm glad you brought that up because presumably in other application, maybe I'm sitting on a train and I'm sitting in a crowded department, and I don't want to have everyone know what I'm
yeah,
doing. I would
yeah.
prefer the privacy of just dialing.
No, because DTMF is so easy to recognize anyway. So we can definitely do both at the same time, listen to the DTMF and also listen to the voice,
Right.
and whatever works, no problem, right?
And if we connect this, now finally AI, PBX, convenience, etc., to business, then the money part has to be that first of all, the for example, the independent living place will have to have fewer people answering the phone at least. They're going to be having happier customers, maybe even happier staff.
Of course, I mean, at the end of the day, the numbers have to match up. I think there's a lot of savings potential where people just don't spend that much time on the phone. If you multiply it with the hourly rates, and there's a strong motivation to introduce AI in many places. And I think that is probably the biggest factor here. The cost for a license, I almost hate to say that it's not the biggest factor because it's not that expensive. I think for the partners, it's an opportunity because it is a complex technology, and I think like the average nursing home is not that much into technology, but they need that help, and but they're definitely willing to pay for the help. I don't know, by hour or whatever, right? And I think there's some really good money to be made there, and that is, I believe, where actually most of the revenue will come from in this space.
Well, Christian, it's always interesting to talk to you. I love that you actually put these two topics together for the first time for me, anyways. Where can we learn more about Vodia?
We have a website, vodia.com. So we try to keep it up to date with such topics like AI.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to the next intriguing discussion. But for now, Christian, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks for having me.